Welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at how to make this lovely layered rose motif. You can see it's quite raised on the patch on the crochet square. So the colours we're using, I'm using a mix of Colour Crafter and Stylecraft Special DK, but the numbers are the same. So for the pink it's 1080, for the green it's 1065, and for the cream it's 1005. So let's begin. Starting with the pink, we're going to make a double magic circle and chain one. Pull the tail out. So for round one, we're going to make the center of the rose. We're going to make 6 cluster stitches. I'm going to be using 3 loop clusters and a chain 2 space between each, not clusters, sorry, puff stitches. We're going to be making 6 puff stitches, 3 loop puff stitches with a chain 2 between each one. So to make the first one, I pull my chain up to the height of a US double, UK treble, yarn over, insert, pull through, that's once, yarn over, insert, pull through, that's twice, yarn over, insert, pull through 3 times, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops, and then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to do that 5 more times so that we have 6 stitches all together. So I'll see you at the end of the round. I'm making my last puff stitch now. I'm just going to pull that through all the loops and then chain 2. So at the end of making those 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just count them before tightening the circle. We're going to pull the tail end, see which loop tightens first, and then pull that loop. We're then going to pull the tail, nice and gentle, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So before I slip stitch to join, I'm just going to pull that out, and I'm going to pop my hook from the back to the front of the last stitch we made, and I'm just going to grab the yarn, the tail, and pull that through, just so that it's easier to sew in later. And then go back into the loop, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to go into the first puff stitch and pull through, and then we're going to, no we're not, I was going to say we're going to go into the chain space, but we're not going to go into the chain space. So there's round 1, 6 stitches with 6 chain spaces. We're now going to chain 3, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the next puff stitch, and we're going to go all the way around like so. 1, 2, whoops, 2, 3, and then slip stitch. So when we get back to the beginning, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first stitch, and we're going to go in between the chain 2 chain spaces. Yeah, we're going to pull the yarn through and slip stitch. So now our yarn is coming in front of that chain 3 space that we made rather than behind it. Yes, because we're going to work into the chain 2 space. So we're just going to tuck that chain 3 space behind. We're going to come back to it later, and we're going to do the same with all those chain 3 spaces when we come to work on our first layer of petals in these chain 2 spaces. Yeah, so we're going to slip stitch into the chain 2 space. So make sure you come up in front of that chain 3 space. Pull the yarn through. Yeah, and then chain 1. So we're going to make the petals, the first row of petals, in the chain 2 spaces. Yeah, so each petal has 8 stitches. We start with a US single, UK double. We then make 6 US doubles, UK trebles. And then we make 1 US single, UK double to finish, and that's all in the same chain 2 space. Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I make my US single, UK double, and then we're going to move across to the next chain 2 space. Remember to keep that chain 3 space tucked behind so that we can work with it later. So pull the yarn through, make a US single, UK double, and then 6 US doubles, UK trebles, and then 1 US single, UK double. Yeah, so there'll be 8 stitches for each petal and 6 petals in total. And I'll see you at the end of the round. So at the end of the first row of petals, we should finish on a US single, UK double, and then we're just going to slip stitch into the first stitch, the first petal to join. Yeah, pull that tight, and then we're going to chain 2. So we're now going to turn the work so that you can just see all those chain 3 spaces are there ready to work on. Yeah, and we're going to slip stitch into the chain 3 space. Now what we want to do is we want to offset our petals. Yeah, so if you look, they're not sitting on top of each other, they're just slightly offset, so that second petal is in between the first 2 petals. So we want to go into the middle of that chain space. Yeah, and then we're going to chain, let's pull that petal down so you can see, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to hop across to the next chain 3 space. We're going to slip stitch, and we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to hop across to the next chain space, slip stitch, and repeat all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. And then we should be back at the beginning. When we get to the beginning, yeah, we're going to go round again doing the same thing. So you're going to slip stitch into that first place you slip stitched, and then repeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch into the slip stitch. Yeah, and repeat all the way around. made your slip stitches too tight, you might struggle to get in there, so don't worry, I'm the same. I'm nearly back at the beginning. Just got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm back to the beginning, and what we're going to be doing is for the second row of petals, we're going to be working, we're going to be working in the first chain 4 space that we made. So I'm going to go straight into the first slip stitch that we made, and I'm going to come in between those 2 chain 4s, yeah, so that we can then go into there and then slip stitch into that chain 4 space, yeah, and then we've got these 2 rows of chain 4 spaces all the way around. We're going to work into the first chain 4 space for the petals, yeah, so we're going to chain 1, we're going to make a US single, UK double, and then this time, instead of making 6 US doubles, UK trebles, we're going to make 8 US doubles, UK trebles, yeah. Whoops. After your 8 US doubles, UK trebles, we're going to make a US single, UK double. It's quite fiddly, this motif. So then we're going to go across after that. That's our first petal, yeah, and you can see it sits in between the first layer of petals. So then we're going to go into the next chain 4 space, yeah. Remember to curl that other one down so that we can work with it later. So we're going to repeat. We're going to make a US single, UK double, then we make 8 US doubles, UK trebles, and then we make 1 US single, UK double, yeah. So there'll be 10 stitches in each petal, and I'll see you at the end of the this round of petals. So I'm just at the end of the second row of petals. I've just made my last stitch, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the first petal, whoops, to join, and then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn the work. So when you turn your work, you should have these 6 chain 4 spaces from before. So we're going to slip stitch down with that into one of those chain 4 spaces, and we're going to repeat what we did before. We're going to make a row of chains to make the petals on. We're going to chain 5 to do that, and then we're going to make a second round with chain 6 to put our leaves on when we've finished our rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we slip stitch into the chain 4 space. Yeah, and just repeat all the way around to the beginning. So 1. So we're back at the beginning. Yeah, make sure you don't get confused with that chain 3 space we used to pull down. And then we're just going to slip stitch into the first slip stitch. And then we're going to go back around, this time with chain 6. Yeah, and then slip stitch into the slip stitch. So I think I'm nearly back at the beginning. Yes. So when we get to the beginning, we're going to be making our 3rd row of petals on that first chain space, yeah, where we the chain 5. So when we slip stitch, we want to come up so that we're in between those 2 chains, yeah, and then we can just slip stitch into the chain 5 space and then chain 1. So for the 3rd row of petals, we're working in the chain 5 spaces and we're turning the chain 6 spaces down. Each petal we are going to make by making a half US double UK treble, 1 US double UK treble, and then 8 US trebles UK double trebles. We then work backwards, so we make a US double UK treble and then a half US double UK treble. So there will be 12 stitches in each of these petals. So after you've made the 8 stitches, we make a US double, UK treble, and then a half stitch. Yeah, and that's the larger petal. So we're going to repeat that in each chain 5 space. Yeah, so you just move across and repeat. And I'll see you at the end of the round. I've just made my last stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the first petal to join, and then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to cut my yarn. Yeah, so we're then going to push the knot down, and that's our rose. So just pull the petals out. I like to press my thumb down into each petal just to kind of shape it. I think I've done my chains a little bit tighter than I normally do, just because I'm filming and a bit self-conscious, but if the chains are a little bit more relaxed, it won't pull in too much. Yeah, so there we go. And in part 2, it's about the same size. Yeah, fits nice. So in part 2, we'll be looking at how to turn the flower into a square. So I'll see you in the next video.